3 months. That is how long people are waiting for these 6 guns right now. Dealers are dry, distributors have nothing, and not a single person who owns one is selling, not for any price. Here is exactly why. Right now, in 2026, the carry gun market is broken in a way nobody predicted. 6 guns at completely different price points all share one problem. Nobody can get them. Not dealers, not distributors, nobody. These aren't collector pieces sitting behind glass. These are carry guns that people strap on every single morning. And every one of them has a 3-month wait because the people building them made a decision. They chose quality over volume. And the market noticed. We're counting down from 6 to 1. Stay until number 1 because that gun has the longest back order on this entire list. And the story behind why is something almost nobody is getting right. Number 6. SIG Sauer P30SK X Macro Comp. Let's start with a gun that by every logical measure shouldn't have a waiting list. The P30SK has been in production for years. SIG Sauer isn't a small garage operation. They have the infrastructure, the workforce, and the distribution to meet demand on almost any product they make. So when the X Macro Comp version started appearing on backorder lists at dealers across the country, people were genuinely confused. Here's exactly why it happened. SIG took the best-selling compact carry gun of the last decade and added an integrated compensator that actually functions for real-world carry, not a range toy, not a marketing gimmick. A real working comp that measurably reduces muzzle flip on fast follow-up shots, while the gun still fits in a standard holster. That last detail is what nobody else in the market had figured out. Every other compensated carry gun available right now is essentially impossible to find a holster for. You buy the gun and then spend months hunting for a holster that fits. The X Macro Comp P eliminated that problem. Shooters figured that out fast, and the shelves went empty even faster. And here's what most people don't realize. The waiting list isn't just because it's popular. It's because once someone shoots on it, they don't go back to their old setup. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 17+1 flush, 20+1 extended. Barrel length, 3.7 inches. Weight, 24.1 ounces loaded. Price range, $699 to $749. The verdict. This isn't a hype-driven purchase. The compensator makes a genuinely measurable difference when you're shooting at speed. That's not marketing language. That's what happens on the range. If your dealer has one in stock, don't leave without it. If they're sold out, get your name on the list and be patient. The wait is absolutely worth it. Number 5. Springfield Armory Echelon. When Springfield first announced the Echelon, the carry community gave it about a week of attention and then moved on. Another polymer frame, another striker-fired action, another 9mm. Cool story. Then people actually started shooting it, and then they started talking, and then dealers started calling distributors asking where their restock was. Nobody saw the trigger coming. At this price point, the expectation is a trigger that works and stays out of your way. What the Echelon actually delivers is a trigger that legitimately competes with pistols costing $300 more. Clean break, consistent reset, no surprises. And here's the part that nobody talks about enough. Springfield's variable interface system lets you mount any light or optic configuration without hunting for adapter plates. That detail alone saves buyers $100 in accessories right out of the gate. Dealers can't keep it on the shelf because every person who buys one immediately tells 3 other people to go buy one too. That kind of word of mouth isn't something you can manufacture, and it isn't something you can slow down. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 17+1, 20+1. Barrel length, 4.0 inches. Weight, 25.5 ounces loaded. Price range, $579 to $619. The verdict. No advertising campaign built this waiting list. No paid partnerships, no sponsored content. Just a pistol that performs well beyond what the price tag suggests and a carry community that talks. That combination is why the list exists and why it keeps growing every single week. Number 4. Wilson Combat SFX9 Subcompact. Wilson Combat built an untouchable reputation over decades on the strength of its 1911 platforms. Serious shooters know the name. Custom pistol people respect the name, but for a long time, if you wanted to carry a Wilson every day, the reality was that their guns were too heavy, too large, and too expensive to make practical sense for daily concealed carry. The SFX9 Subcompact changed that conversation completely. Wilson took everything they'd learned across decades of high-end pistol building and compressed it into a double-stack 9mm small enough to actually disappear in a holster. The fit between components on this gun is something you have to feel to understand. Every part feels like it was machined specifically for the exact gun it lives in, because it was. Here's what's interesting about this waiting list specifically. It doesn't demand outpacing production capacity. Wilson could ship more guns. They're choosing not to because every gun that leaves that facility has to be exactly right. That's a decision most manufacturers would never make when the orders are stacking up. The trigger is what stops people from catching a cold. They pick the SX9 up at a dealer counter, press the trigger once in a dry fire, and without saying anything, they look up and ask how long the wait is. That scene plays out in gun stores across the country every single week right now. That isn't an exaggeration. That's the reality of what this trigger does to people who have never felt one before. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 15+1. Barrel length, 3.25 inches. Weight, 27.6 ounces loaded. Price range, $1,595 to $1,750. The verdict. Wilson's waiting list isn't about supply chain problems. It's about a company that won't accelerate production at the cost of quality. Not in demand, not for profit margin, not for anything. Every SFX9 that leaves their facility is exactly right. Or it doesn't leave. That standard is almost non-existent in the firearms industry in 2026. And it's the entire reason people wait months and then never consider selling. Number 3. Canik METE MC9. Here's the story of what actually happened with the Canik METE MC9. A handful of shooting instructors started recommending it to their students. Not because Canik had a marketing deal with them, not because they were being paid, because they put rounds through it and genuinely couldn't reconcile what it cost with what it did. 15+1 capacity inside a micro compact frame that carries like a much smaller gun. A factory optic ready slide that's actually properly executed. A trigger straight out of the box that outperforms guns sitting in the $500 to $700 range. And a price point so far below the competition that when people heard the number, they assumed there had to be a catch somewhere. There isn't one. And here's why that matters so much right now. Every manufacturer competing in the $400 to $700 segment is scrambling to answer the MC9. None of them has a good answer yet. Word moved from those first instructors to their students, from students to forums, from forums to YouTube, from YouTube to every car community online. And before Canik's production and supply chain could even begin to react, the shelves were empty and the waiting lists were already weeks long. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 15+1 standard, 12+1 flush. Barrel length, 3.18 inches. Weight, 21.2 ounces loaded. Price range, $389 to $429. The verdict. The MC9 is the gun that makes people feel like they discovered something the rest of the market hasn't caught on to yet. At this level of performance, at this price point, the waiting list isn't a surprise at all. If budget is a real consideration for you and you're sitting on this waiting list right now, you're making exactly the right decision. Don't settle for something else while you wait. Number 2. Nighthawk Custom GRP Recon. When most people in the firearms world use the word custom, they mean a production gun with aftermarket components installed. Better sights, different grips, a trigger job from a local smith. That's what custom means to most buyers. The Nighthawk GRP Recon operates in a completely different category. Every single GRP Recon that leaves Nighthawk's facility was built entirely by one gunsmith. Not assembled from a parts bin by multiple technicians on a production floor. One person, one gun, beginning to end. The frame and slide on your Recon were hand-fitted together as a matched pair, and they'll never be separated and reassembled with different components. The tolerances are that tight. The fit is that precise. Zero play between components. Zero rattle anywhere on the gun. Zero tolerance for any outcome that falls short of exactly right. Nah. And here's the thing about this waiting list that people get wrong. They assume it's long because Nighthawk is a small shop that can't scale. That's not the reason. The reason is that scaling would mean changing the process. And changing the process would mean the gun becomes something different. Nighthawk won't do that. The carry-specific engineering on the Recon is precise and deliberate. Front strap checkering is aggressive enough to guarantee positive grip without destroying your hand on a full day of carry. A flush-cut barrel that cleans up the profile for concealment. Every edge on the entire gun has been broken and dehorned so that drawing and reholstering feel completely natural regardless of what you're wearing. Nothing on this gun was designed to look impressive. Everything on this gun was designed to function perfectly. Caliber, .45, ACP, or 9mm. Capacity, 8+1 and .45, 10+1 and 9mm. Barrel length, 4.25 inches. Weight, 34 to 36 ounces depending on configuration. Price range, $3,499 to $3,999. The verdict. This is a gun you purchase once and carry every day for the rest of your life. The waiting list for the GRP Recon isn't the result of a supply problem. It's the natural and inevitable outcome of a builder who won't compromise on a single detail, regardless of how long the list gets. Every person who receives one stops searching for their next carry gun permanently. That fact alone tells you everything you need to know. Number 1. HKP30 SK-V3 with manual safety? The HKP30. SK isn't a new gun. That's the first thing you need to understand about why it sits at number 1 on this list. It's been in production for years. HK manufactures it in consistent numbers. There wasn't a launch event, no new feature announcement, no limited edition run that created artificial scarcity. This is a gun that has existed quietly in the market for a long time. So how does it end up with the longest verified dealer backorder of any carry pistol in 2026? Two separate things happened simultaneously and nobody in the market planned for either of them. The first thing, a significant wave of experienced shooters began moving away from striker-fired pistols with no manual safety. These aren't new shooters making uninformed decisions. These are people with years of trigger time coming from 1911 platforms, from DA/SA background, from training environments where manual safety is considered a non-negotiable requirement. When they went looking for a modern, reliable, concealable pistol that still offered a proper manual safety, they found almost nothing worth considering. The options in that specific category are remarkably thin. The P30SK V3 was one of the only serious answers that checked every box. The second thing, HK didn't respond to the demand spike by increasing production, because HK doesn't do that. They've never done that. They run their manufacturing at the pace they determine is correct, and the market waits for them. That isn't arrogance. That's a company that understands exactly what they are and won't compromise their standards to chase short-term sales numbers. Supply held flat. Demand climbed sharply. The gap between those two lines became a waiting list that hasn't stopped growing. And here's what makes this number 1 above everything else on this list. Every other gun here has a waiting list because people want it. The P30SK V3 has a waiting list because people need it, and there's almost nothing else that fills that specific role. That's a completely different kind of demand, and it doesn't go away. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 10+1 flush, 13+1 extended. Barrel length, 3.27 inches. Weight, 22.9 ounces loaded. Price range, $849 to $929. The verdict. The P30SK V3 won't win a beauty contest. It isn't trying to. What it offers instead is a level of mechanical refinement, trigger consistency, and long-term reliability that puts it in a category most production pistols never reach, regardless of price. The people sitting on that waiting list right now are experienced shooters who know precisely what they're getting and have made a deliberate decision that it's worth however long the wait turns out to be. That kind of buyer is almost always right. 6 guns, 6 waiting lists, 6 completely different stories about why people are willing to stand in a line that takes 3 months to move through. But underneath all 6 of those stories, there's one thing that never changes. Every builder on this list decided at some point that quality wasn't negotiable. Not when demand spiked, not when the waiting list got embarrassingly long, not when the pressure to ship more and ship faster became impossible to ignore. They held the line on what the gun was supposed to be, and they let the market wait. That kind of commitment is genuinely rare in 2026, and that's precisely why every single list on this countdown keeps getting longer instead of shorter. If this gives you a clearer picture of what's actually worth waiting for in the current market, hit subscribe. Every week we cover the carry market the same way. No paid placements, no sponsored opinions, no brand deals influence what we tell you. Just honest information from people who take this seriously. Drop a comment before you go. Would you wait 3 months for the right to carry a gun? And if you're already sitting on one of these waiting lists right now, tell me which gun it is. I want to see where most of you are landing.